Here we are, it's August the 20th already. It is the 20th Sunday in Ordinary Time, the 12th after Pentecost and proper 12. We read the gospel and we say, did Jesus actually say that? It's from Matthew 15, verses 21 to 28. You know, look at the Jesus we have enshrined in the stained glass memories of our minds. He is gentle, holding, wayward sheep across his shoulders, or he kneels to listen to a child, or, stretches out his hand to heal the sick or to raise Peter from the water. This is the Jesus we know, from the Gospels. And from the earliest stories we've always heard as children. He is gentle and compassionate and loving, a friend to the outcast, the one who came to seek and to save every last, least, and lost one of us. And his words were wise and warm, inviting and gracious, right? Now that is a Jesus anyone or we should adore, and we could. But then we come to this passage today in Matthew's gospel, and where Jesus is approached by that woman whose daughter is desperately ill, rather than put everything else aside to heal the girl and comfort the frantic mother, as we would expect, Jesus seems to ignore her pleas. And when she presses him for the sake of her daughter, Jesus seems to say that she fails the nationality test as a Gentile and therefore falls on the outside of the geographical boundaries of his ministry. The mother brushes right past this response and pleads further for just a crumb of attention. But Jesus adds insult to injury by offering a verbal metaphor comparing Gentiles to dogs. Only after pushing past this apparent insult, when the woman's witty response suggests that even dogs get to eat the crumbs left over by the children, does Jesus respond in a manner we would have expected from the start. And the daughter is indeed, she is healed. So what is going on here? You don't see stained glass windows with that story in it, do you? What happened to the Gentile carrying? What happened to the gentle carrying Jesus, the friend of the outcast and the sinner, the great physician? Was just having a bad day? Did he have an exhausting schedule, or did he really care only for the Israelites and share their low esteem for the Gentile neighbors? Or must the healing of Jesus be earned after a witty exchange? Well, ordinary folk like you and me may act like that, for we get cranky, don't we? We play cruel games with words, and our mercy can suffer from compassion fatigue. But Jesus was not ordinary, and the picture of petty, insulting healer with a nationalistic bias just doesn't seem to square off with the rest of what we are told about Jesus in the Gospels. So there has to be something else going on. So what is it? Well, first, this passage shows that God is serious about honoring his promises. Long ago, God made a series of covenants with Abraham and his offspring that they would be his chosen people, and he alone would be their God. Of course, the Old Testament is a story where God's persistent faithfulness to his part of that promise, while the Israelites were only spotty in their faithfulness to their end of the deal at best. And yet, this is the point about God. He is faithful even when we are faithless. He honors his promises even when we are promise breakers. Out of faithfulness to his own word first, and in covenant honor to the faithfulness of the patriarchs and others in Israel who did remain faithful to God, God sent Jesus to be born into a Jewish home of Joseph of Nazareth and Mary. And when he became a man, Jesus focused his ministry primarily on those people that he knew, the people of Israel. And only after his resurrection did the risen Lord widen the commission to his followers to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. So Jesus did not care only for the house of Israel. He simply intended to bring the opportunity of the gospel to them first. There would be enough spiritual fire to light every candle, every spiritual food to fill their hunger by the time the work of Jesus was finished. But it would start first with Israel and be offered first to the chosen people of God there. It was an old promise, but it is one God intended to keep nevertheless. When John Mark tells the story in his gospel, we hear a hint of this geographical and national sequencing of the gospel rollout. Listen to the way Mark records Jesus' answer to the frantic mother's request for healing. Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and give it to the dogs. Mark 7, verse 27. If this is still difficult to understand, take heart. Great theologians and church leaders have wrestled with this mystery for centuries, but here is the point. When God chose Israel, he did not at the same time leave the rest of the world condemned to the ranks of the unchosen. No, God chose Israel as a beachhead, an initial point of contact for his mission to redeem all of humankind. He does not love Israel more than others, or instead of others. God just began his mission there. In the same way, the fact that the Allies made their beachhead landing in France, June 6, 1944, it did not mean that France was preferred more than any other of the nations in Europe. The Allies cared equally for all of Europe. It's just that the point of liberation began on the shores of France and spread freedom from there. Italy was not an afterthought, nor was Poland. Just so Gentiles are not byproducts or stepchildren or afterthoughts of God's liberating plan either. All along, the only plan God had was to redeem all of creation to himself. So when the woman came to Jesus with her urgent need, she did not fall outside of care or even outside the ultimate plan of Jesus. She just came in the wrong order and forced Jesus to move up his time schedule in order to meet her need. As a result, she became a first fruit, a sign, a foreshadowing of the Gentile ingathering that would come. And the second thing we should notice about this passage are the habits and hints that Jesus might not have been rude to that woman and her daughter after all. The word Jesus uses for dog in this story is not the word for a mangy, street-wandering, scavenging dog in the first century. It is the word of a household pet and would be better translated puppy. And this fits the image of children eating at the family table and the crumbs falling under the table, where the beloved family pet sits curled up around the feet and waits expectantly for morsels handed down with loving hands from the kids. It is a much gentler image than we first imagine when we read this story. And the woman seemed to get the pun without hearing it as an insult or refusal to help. We don't see the body language and we don't hear the tone of Jesus' voice. And we know that so much communication happens with the tone and the body language. How differently these words sound when spoken in a gentle tone. Perhaps he even winked, almost inviting the woman to keep her faith up. Perhaps. Although we do not have a tape recording of this event, the rest of the gospel portrait of Jesus strongly suggests that he must have engaged with this woman with I would say, compassion and interest in her situation, wanting to meet her and her needs and to heal her daughter. This may be the reason the woman offered the response about the puppies getting to eat after the children were fed, because she knew that even the household pet does not have to go away hungry. And Jesus surely did not want her to go away hungry either. He commended her faith as she left without any proof other than the word of Jesus that her daughter was healed. And we are left cheering and encouraged, for this indeed is the Jesus we know. This is the one we've known about forever. The Jesus who loves every last one of us. And the people said, Amen.